AITA for walking out after my bride admitted she settled for me? I'm Nathan, 35, and until my wedding night, I honestly thought the worst thing Marissa could do was make a joke that went a little too far. I was the groom who double-checked the seating chart, kept gum in my jacket pocket because I knew I'd be nervous, and practiced my vows in the bathroom mirror because I didn't want my voice to shake. I was the guy making sure my dad's boutonniere was pinned straight and that my mom had tissues in her clutch. I was not the guy who expected to leave his own reception with his best man carrying my phone and my mother crying quietly in the back seat. From the outside, Marissa and I looked like one of those couples where the differences balanced each other out. She was sharp, loud in a fun way, good at working a room, and always the person people watched when she told a story. I was calmer. I planned ahead. I checked reservations. I remembered birthdays without needing reminders. She used to say that made her feel secure. At first, her teasing felt affectionate. If I showed up 10 minutes early, she'd laugh and say, "Nathan thinks being on time is a moral issue." If I packed snacks for a road trip, she'd call me Dad Energy and steal the trail mix 20 minutes later. If I asked whether we should make a dinner reservation instead of just showing up somewhere, she'd roll her eyes and say, "Look at you, keeping society from collapsing." People laughed, and I laughed too. Back then, it felt like she was laughing with me. Somewhere along the way, that changed. The jokes got sharper. They stopped landing as playful and started landing as little public reminders that I was useful but not impressive. At dinner with friends, she once said, "Nathan is the kind of guy you marry when your nervous system gets tired." Everyone laughed because it sounded clever. I smiled because I didn't want to be the man who made the table awkward. Another time, someone asked how we met, and Marissa said, "I had already dated my quota of men with tattoos and commitment issues, so I thought I'd try stability." I said later, in the car, that one bothered me. She stared out the windshield and sighed like I had asked her to rewrite her personality. "Oh my God, Nathan. It was a joke." "I know. I just don't like being compared to men you make sound more exciting than me." "You make everything heavy," she said. "Can't you just let people laugh?" That became her favorite defense. I was too sensitive. I was too serious. I didn't understand her humor. I was making things about my feelings. So I started picking my battles, which is a nice way of saying I swallowed things I should have spit back out. When we got engaged, I told myself marriage would settle us. I thought the small humiliations were just immaturity, maybe nerves, maybe the way she performed when she felt watched. She could be warm when we were alone. She could bring me coffee without asking. She knew exactly how I liked the blanket folded on the couch. She cried when I proposed. She said yes before I finished the question. That's what made it hard. Cruel people are easier to leave when they're cruel all the time. Wedding planning brought out the best in me and the worst in her. I cared about boring things like table spacing, vendor times, and whether older relatives would be seated away from the speakers. Marissa cared about photos, entrances, the playlist, and making sure the reception didn't feel stiff. "I don't want one of those weddings where everyone claps politely and goes home," she said one night while scrolling through videos. "I want people to say it was fun." "Fun is good," I said. "No offense, but your family's version of fun is probably labeling leftovers." I looked up from the seating chart. She smiled. "See? That was funny." I didn't argue. I just went back to moving names around so her aunt didn't have to sit beside her divorced cousin. About 3 weeks before the wedding, I saw something that put a cold little hook in my stomach. Marissa had left her phone on the kitchen counter while she was upstairs trying on shoes. I wasn't snooping. The screen lit up because a notification came in from Tessa, her maid of honor. The preview said, "Are you really saying that about Nathan in front of his parents?" Under it, another notification from Lena appeared. "Marissa, I'm serious. That line feels mean." I stood there for a second, staring at the screen like it might explain itself. When Marissa came downstairs, I said, "What line?" She blinked. "What?" Tessa and Lena texted. Something about saying something in front of my parents. Her face did that thing it did when she was deciding whether to laugh or get annoyed. She chose laugh. "Oh my God. It's nothing. Just speech stuff." "What speech stuff?" "The bride's speech." "Relax." I didn't relax. Later that night, when she was brushing her teeth, I saw her notes app open on her iPad on the bed. I didn't scroll. I didn't open anything new. The note was already there, titled, "Reception Speech Final." and a few phrases jumped out before I looked away. Safe choice. Not my usual type. Porch light. I waited until she came back into the room. My heart was beating too fast for what should have been a normal conversation. Please don't make me the joke at our wedding, I said. She paused with one earring in her hand. What? I saw a few lines from your speech. I'm not trying to control what you say, but please don't roast me in front of everyone. She gave a short laugh. Nathan, it's a wedding speech. People joke. Derek is joking in his toast too, but I know he loves me. That's dramatic. Marissa. She dropped the earring on the dresser. I'm not going to humiliate you. That's not what I asked. She folded her arms. Fine. I promise. I won't make you the punchline. Are we good now? I wanted to believe her so badly that I accepted the promise, even though her tone sounded like she was doing me a favor. The wedding day itself was beautiful in that strange, overwhelming way weddings are beautiful when everyone has spent too much money and nobody wants to admit their shoes hurt. The ceremony went smoothly. Marissa looked stunning. When she walked down the aisle, I forgot every warning sign for a few minutes. I saw the woman I loved. I saw the future I thought we were choosing. During the vows, her voice cracked when she said I made her feel safe, and I believed that was love. At the reception, the room looked perfect. Folded place cards sat at every table. The cake was near the dance floor, white frosting and small flowers, untouched. There were half-empty champagne glasses everywhere, little gold votive candles, the DJ standing behind his booth, and the videographer moving quietly with that small camera light glowing like an insect in the dim room. We had our first dance. My father hugged me too hard afterward. My mother kept touching my cheek like she still couldn't believe I was grown. Marissa's father, Howard, gave a speech that was polished and emotional. He talked about watching his daughter grow into someone fearless and full of life. Her mother, Vivian, dabbed her eyes. Then Derek stood for his best man toast. Derek has known me since we were both too young to know what a mortgage was and old enough to think we understood heartbreak. He started with a joke about me labeling boxes during a move. Nathan once labeled a box miscellaneous but fragile, he said, and people laughed. That tells you everything about him. Even his chaos comes with a warning. I laughed too because it was true and because the joke had love in it. Then he looked at me and said, Nathan is the guy who remembers what matters before anyone else notices it matters. He's steady, not because he's boring, but because the people he loves never have to wonder whether he'll show up. That got me. I looked down fast and pretended to fix my cuff. Derek ended by raising his glass to both of us. To Nathan and Marissa. May you protect each other in every room you walk into. I remember that line because 20 minutes later, it felt like a warning I hadn't understood. After Derek sat down, Marissa stood up. She looked completely at ease, holding the microphone like she had been born doing it. Tessa grinned from the bridesmaids' table. Lena looked down at her lap. I noticed that, but I didn't understand it yet. Marissa started sweet. First, thank you to everyone who came today, she said. Some of you flew, some of you drove, and some of you survived my mother's group texts about dress code. So honestly, everyone here is a hero. People laughed. Vivian pointed at herself, as if to say, guilty. Marissa smiled. My parents taught me to believe in love, even when I made that very difficult for them. My friends taught me that sometimes the best decisions come after the worst ones. And Nathan? She turned toward me. There it was. That tiny smile. The one she got before a joke she knew might cut. Nathan surprised me, she said. The room softened. I tried to soften too. If you told 25-year-old me I'd marry a man who owns a label maker and thinks arriving 12 minutes early is late, I would have laughed in your face. A ripple of laughter moved through the room. I smiled tightly. Label maker jokes were fine. I did own one. Marissa kept going. He was not my usual type. My usual type usually came with a motorcycle, a disappearing act, and at least one reason my friends had to come over with wine. More laughter. A little louder this time. Nathan was different, she said. He answered texts. He made plans. He showed up on time. He had clean towels. I mean, ladies, you know you're getting older when clean towels start feeling romantic. The laughter thinned around the edges. I saw the photographer lift the camera, then lower it again, pretending to adjust something. Marissa kept smiling. And I'll be honest, when I was younger, I thought love was supposed to make you nervous. I thought it was supposed to feel like fireworks. Loud, unpredictable, exciting, maybe a little dangerous. Her hand landed on my shoulder. Nathan isn't that. The room went quiet enough that I heard someone set down a fork. He's safe, she said. He's dependable. He's the guy you choose when you finally stop chasing the ones who make your heart race and start thinking about who can actually keep a calendar. A few people gave weak laughs. Derek stopped smiling completely. My father looked at the table. My mother stared at Marissa like she was waiting for the turn, the sweet ending that would make all of it okay. Then Marissa delivered the line. I guess every woman has to stop chasing fireworks eventually and settle for a porch light. Nobody laughed. Not a real laugh, anyway. There was one nervous sound from somewhere near the back, then a cough, then the soft clink of silverware. The videographer kept recording. The DJ lowered the background music until it disappeared. Tessa's grin froze. Lena closed her eyes. Marissa looked proud. That was the part that opened something in me. Not the words. The pride. She squeezed my shoulder, lightly, like she expected me to play along. Like my job in that moment was to laugh, so everyone else could breathe again. I didn't move. My champagne glass sat beside my plate, untouched since the toast. There was a folded place card in front of me with Nathan written in gold script. I remember staring at it and thinking how strange it was that my own name looked more welcome on paper than I felt at my own wedding table. Marissa tried to wrap it up. But in all seriousness, she said, her voice turning soft too late. Nathan, you are kind, patient, and probably the only man on earth who could handle me. I love you. Thank you for being my safe place. People clapped because people clap when they are desperate for a moment to end. I sat there while the applause moved around me like water around a stone. Inside my head, things started lining up. The note app, the text from Lena, the way Marissa had said I hated conflict, the promise she had made, the tiny smile before the joke, her hand pressing my shoulder after she humiliated me, reminding me to behave. She hadn't misjudged the joke. She had judged me. She believed I would absorb it because leaving would look worse than staying. She believed I would protect the wedding from the truth, even if she didn't protect me from the joke. The MC, a friend of Marissa's family, stepped forward with the kind of nervous smile people use around broken glass. Well, he said, forcing brightness into his voice. Nathan, would you like to say a few words? Marissa leaned toward me without moving her smile. Be nice, she whispered. I looked at her. Don't make this weird, she added. I stood up and took the microphone. The room changed. I felt it. People stopped shifting. Derek's hand hovered near the back of my chair, not touching me, just there in case I needed him. My mother's eyes were wet. My father looked straight at me, and for once his face didn't say, keep the peace. It said, tell the truth. I had prepared a speech. It was folded in my jacket pocket next to the gum. It talked about how lucky I felt, how Marissa made life brighter, how marriage was a promise to choose each other out loud and in private. I didn't read it. I held the microphone with both hands because one hand was shaking. I had something else prepared, I said. My voice sounded calmer than I felt. I had a speech about how grateful I was, about how beautiful today was, about how lucky I felt to marry someone I believed would protect me in the rooms I wasn't strong enough to protect myself. Marissa's smile disappeared. I turned slightly toward her, not enough to make it a show, but enough that she knew I was speaking to her. You called me the safe choice in front of everyone I love. You told this room I was what you chose after the men you actually wanted disappointed you. Her eyes widened. Nathan, she said under her breath. I kept going. What you forgot is that safe doesn't mean stupid. Loyal doesn't mean disposable. And calm doesn't mean I didn't hear you. The room was so still I could hear the videographer's equipment strap creak when he shifted. I looked back at the guests. I'm not going to compete with fireworks. I'm not going to beg to be respected by the person who just promised to love me. And I'm not going to laugh at my own humiliation so everyone else can feel comfortable. I placed the microphone gently on the sweetheart table. Then I said, without the mic, because my voice didn't need to carry anymore, thank you all for coming. I'm sorry this is how the night turned. I didn't storm out. I walked out, which somehow made everyone quieter. Derek was beside me within seconds. You want your phone? He asked. I nodded. He grabbed it from the table before anyone else thought to touch it. My mother stood up like she wanted to come to me, stopped, then came anyway. My father followed. The wedding coordinator intercepted me near the edge of the dance floor, pale and professional. Should we delay the cake cutting? She asked, then looked like she wished she could pull the words back into her mouth. I won't be here for it, I said. Please speak with whoever is still hosting. The DJ had both hands hovering over his controls like he was afraid music might make the wrong moral statement. The photographer pretended to study the back of his camera. The videographer was still recording. I stopped beside him. Please preserve the raw footage, I said. Do not edit out the speeches. He swallowed. Of course. Behind me, Marissa's chair scraped back. Nathan, she called. I kept walking. There was a hallway near the coat check, quieter but not private. The sounds from the reception dulled behind the walls. I could smell perfume, flowers, and the faint heat from the kitchen. I had almost reached the side door when Marissa caught up to me, her dress gathered in both hands. What the hell was that? She snapped. I turned around slowly. She was crying, but not the way someone cries when they understand they hurt you. She looked furious, embarrassed, cornered. You embarrassed me, she said. I almost laughed because the sentence was so cleanly wrong. You did that with a microphone, I said. It was a joke. Then explain why nobody is laughing now. Her face hardened. You made me look cruel. No, I said. I stopped helping you hide it. She stepped closer and lowered her voice. We need to talk in private. No. Nathan, don't be childish. Come into the bridal suite and talk to me like an adult. I'm talking like an adult right here. You are throwing away our wedding over one speech. I stared at her for a second. The word "our" landed badly. Our wedding. Our room. Our guests. Our day. But the humiliation had been mine to swallow. I asked you not to make me the punchline today, I said. She threw up one hand. Oh my God. This is exactly what I mean. You make everything heavy. Before I could answer, both sets of parents reached the hallway. Vivian came first, breathless and red-eyed. Howard was behind her, looking like someone had aged him 10 years during cocktail hour. My parents came from the other side with Derek. Vivian held her hands up. Everyone is emotional right now. Let's not make any permanent decisions in a hallway. My mother, Elaine, looked at her and said quietly, she made permanent words in a ballroom. Vivian flinched. Marissa turned on my mother. I was trying to be funny. Elaine's face crumpled, but her voice stayed steady. I kept waiting for you to fix it. Howard finally spoke. Marissa, that wasn't just teasing. Marissa looked betrayed. Dad. He looked at me, then at the floor. I don't know what to say. My father, Graham, didn't look at anyone but me. Do you want to go? He asked. Yes, I said. Then we go. Marissa let out a sharp laugh. So that's it. You're all just leaving me here. I looked at her one last time in that hallway, in the dress I had cried seeing her wear only a few hours earlier. I'm leaving before this becomes a fight, I said. I'm not discussing the marriage in a hallway. I'll talk to someone who understands the paperwork, and then I'll decide what comes next. The paperwork, she repeated, like I had slapped her. I don't know yet what the law will call this, I said. I just know I'm not calling it a marriage until I understand my options. Then I left. Derek drove. My parents sat in the back. I sat in the passenger seat, still in my tux, staring at my phone as it started lighting up like a slot machine. Calls from Marissa. Texts from Tessa. Texts from cousins. Messages in the family group chat. Aunt Karen, can someone explain what happened? Tessa. Nathan walked out and Marissa is devastated. Derek, from the driver's seat, saw his own phone light up and muttered, nope. He pulled into a gas station parking lot so I could breathe. I sent one message to the group chat. I'm not discussing this over rumors. Anyone who wants to know why I left can watch the speech. Then I muted the chat. That night was not dramatic in the way people imagine dramatic nights. I didn't punch a wall. I didn't drink myself stupid. I didn't write a 12-paragraph message. I sat at my parents' kitchen table with a glass of water while my tux jacket hung over a chair and my mother put a plate of toast in front of me like I was 8 years old and had the flu. Derek sat across from me, still wearing his loosened tie. You didn't ruin anything, he said. You stopped pretending it was fine. I rubbed both hands over my face. She promised me, I said. I know. My father leaned against the counter, arms crossed. Being calm doesn't mean staying. That sentence stayed with me. Around midnight, the wedding coordinator emailed about the private after-party in the smaller lounge and whether I wanted my portion of the remaining balance charged to the card on file. I replied with one sentence saying I would not attend and no additional charges should be approved under my name without written consent. Then the vendor email started feeling less like wedding logistics and more like evidence of a life I needed to separate from carefully. Overtime fees, footage delivery, final floral balance, transportation changes, honeymoon check-in details. I forwarded everything to a folder. I saved screenshots. I downloaded copies of messages before anyone could delete or edit the story. I canceled what I could cancel from my side and paused what I could pause. The honeymoon reservation was partly in my name, partly in hers. I called the travel company the next morning and converted what I legally could, canceled what I could, and accepted that some money was gone. Money was not the injury. Marissa called 17 times before noon. I let every call go to voicemail. Her messages started soft. Nathan, please pick up. We need to talk. Then wounded. I can't believe you left me there. Then angry. You humiliated me in front of my entire family. Then pleading. You know I didn't mean it like that. Then honest in the worst possible way. Everyone thinks I'm awful now. Do you understand what you did? That was when I stopped feeling confused. Not once did she say, I understand why that hurt you. Not once did she say, I'm sorry I made you feel small in front of your family. She was devastated because people had seen her clearly. The next afternoon, I got a text from Lena. I stared at her name for a while before opening it. Nathan, I'm sorry. I should have said something before last night. I pushed back in the chat, but that wasn't enough. I can't watch her call it nerves when she planned the line. Then came the screenshots. They were from the bridesmaid group chat, time-stamped from the week before the wedding. Marissa, I think the safe choice bit is going to kill. Tessa, yes. People love honest bride humor. Lena, are you sure? Saying he's not your usual type is one thing. The porch light thing sounds mean. Marissa, it's funny because it's true. Lena, it's your wedding. His parents will be there. Marissa, Nathan will laugh it off. He hates conflict. Tessa, he'll be fine. He knows you love him. Marissa, also he needs to learn not everything is about his feelings. I set the phone down and walked away from it. There are moments when pain actually gets quieter because proof arrives. I had spent hours wondering whether I was overreacting, whether shock had made the speech sound worse than it was, whether everyone would eventually tell me I should have handled it privately. Then I saw in writing that she knew. She knew I wouldn't like it. She knew my family would hear it. She counted on my restraint and called it love. I replied to Lena hours later. Thank you for telling me. I wish I had known earlier, but I appreciate you not letting it be rewritten now. She sent back, I'm sorry. Truly. The Caleb messages came the day after that, and somehow they hurt less and more at the same time. Caleb was Marissa's ex from years before me. I knew about him. He was part of the chaos era she joked about, the guy who never showed up on time, never committed, and apparently made her feel like life was a movie until the movie became miserable. I didn't get the messages from him directly. They came through Lena, who said Caleb had sent them to a mutual friend after Marissa tried to pull him into the drama and claim I had always been insecure about her past. The screenshots were short. Marissa, getting married this weekend. Weird, right? Caleb, congrats. Marissa, it's funny. Nathan is basically the kind of guy you marry when you're tired of being disappointed. Caleb, then don't marry him if you see him like that. Marissa, that's not what I mean. Caleb, if he's good to you, don't make him pay for other guys. Marissa, relax. Nathan can take a joke. Caleb, I'm not your almost. Leave me out of it. I read that last line 3 times. The twist was not that Marissa still wanted Caleb. Honestly, that would have been simpler. The twist was that even the man she thought made her exciting saw what she was doing and told her not to do it. She ignored him too. By then, Marissa had started trying to control the story. According to Derek, Tessa was telling people I snapped and abandoned my bride because I can't handle edgy humor. Someone in the family chat wrote that weddings are stressful and people say awkward things. Vivian asked people to please stop sending the video around. But the video had already done what I refused to do. It argued with her for me. It showed her tone. It showed her smile. It showed the silence after the porch light line. It showed my mother's face. It showed Marissa leaning down to whisper something to me before I stood. It showed me speaking for less than a minute and leaving without raising my voice. Nobody could edit that into me being unstable. One cousin texted me the next morning. I laughed because I panicked. I'm sorry. Watching it back made me sick. Another guest wrote, I thought she was going to turn it sweet. When she didn't, I didn't know where to look. Howard called me 2 days later. I almost didn't answer, but I respected him enough to take it. His voice sounded rough. "Nathan," he said. I watched the full footage. I waited. "I'm embarrassed," he said. "And I'm sorry. Vivian and I were trying to calm everyone down, but there's no defending what people can see with their own eyes." I looked out the window and watched a neighbor carry groceries from their car like the world had not changed. "Thank you for saying that," I said. "I don't know what happens between you two now. I'm speaking to an attorney." There was a pause. "I understand," he said. That mattered more than I expected it to. Tessa never apologized. She sent one message that said, "You know she was trying to be funny. People are acting like she committed a crime." I didn't answer. Derek saw it and said, "Some people think cruelty stops counting if it gets a laugh." I met with an attorney that week. I wanted a clean word like undo. The attorney gave me paperwork, timelines, and the reminder that choices still have consequences even when they were made in a tux. Because of when things were signed, filed, and processed, the next steps weren't as simple as me declaring the wedding canceled. I brought the vendor emails, the screenshots, the timeline notes, and copies of messages. The attorney explained the options available to me and what the process could look like depending on the final filing status. It was sobering. It was boring. It was exactly what I needed. There was no movie moment where a judge slammed a gavel and erased the day. There were forms, calls, waiting periods, financial separations, and instructions to keep communication limited and documented. So that's what I did. I arranged to pick up my belongings through Derek. The wedding gifts that had already arrived were cataloged and returned where possible. Items that couldn't be returned were stored until we had guidance on what to do. I returned my wedding ring to its box and put it in a drawer with receipts and copies of contracts. That felt colder than crying. Marissa kept trying to force one private conversation. I refused to meet alone because I had learned how quickly she could turn a room into a stage. Eventually, I agreed to one phone call with Derek in the room on my side, silent but present. Marissa started before I even said hello. "So this is it," she said. "You're ending this because of a speech?" "No," I said. "I'm ending it because you used our first hour as husband and wife to tell everyone I was second place, then got angry that I believed you." She went quiet. Then she said, "You know I didn't mean it like that." I saw the group chat. Silence again. "That was taken out of context," she said. "It was time-stamped. You weren't supposed to see that." I closed my eyes. "That's your defense." She started crying then, harder this time. I was nervous. I wanted people to laugh. Tessa thought it was funny. "I didn't think you'd leave." "I know," I said. "That's the problem. You could have talked to me privately." "I did. Before the wedding. I asked you not to make me the punchline." Her breathing shook through the speaker. "You embarrassed me," she whispered. "You embarrassed yourself," I said. "I just stopped protecting you from the consequences." "This is so unfair." "What part?" "That one joke ruined everything." "It wasn't one joke. It was a pattern with an audience." She said nothing. I kept my voice steady because if I let it crack, I knew she would grab the crack and climb inside it. "You thought we were entering a marriage where you could disrespect me publicly and I would smooth it over privately. I'm not doing that for the rest of my life. So you just don't love me?" That one hit. Even after everything, it hit. "I loved you enough to ask you not to hurt me," I said. "You loved the laugh more." She hung up. I didn't call back. Over the next few weeks, the noise faded. Not completely, but enough that I could hear myself think again. Some people stayed quiet because awkwardness is easier than taking a side. Some sent apologies. Some tried to encourage forgiveness because they were uncomfortable with a marriage ending before the thank you cards went out. I learned to let those messages sit unanswered. My mother stopped asking whether I was okay and started asking whether I had eaten. My father came over one Saturday and helped me take down a box of wedding things I didn't want to look at. He didn't give a speech. He just taped the box shut and wrote "storage" on it in black marker. Derek took me to dinner and made no jokes about the wedding. That was how I knew he understood. Lena and I exchanged only a few messages after the screenshots. I didn't make her my spy or my therapist. She had done what she should have done late, but she did it. That was enough. Marissa lost more than she expected, though not in some dramatic public way. Her parents stopped defending her. A few friends distanced themselves, especially after the Caleb messages made it clear she hadn't just been nervous. Tessa stayed loyal online and loud in private, from what I heard. But even she couldn't make the video sound different. The footage never went viral. I didn't post it. I didn't need strangers to punish her. It circulated exactly far enough to stop the lie. For a while, I was ashamed that I had walked out. Not because I thought I was wrong, but because I had been trained by years of small moments to believe that staying calm meant staying put. That if I didn't yell, I didn't have a reason to leave. That if someone could label their cruelty as humor, I had to accept it as a personality trait. But calm can also be the way you pick up your phone, ask for the raw footage, leave before the room becomes a battlefield, and refuse to spend years proving you are worthy of basic respect. I didn't leave because I couldn't take a joke. I left because I finally understood the joke was the marriage she thought she could have with me. And I decided I wasn't going to spend the rest of my life being the punchline. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.